From ancient prophecies to shocking sequels, fans have been theorizing about the meaning of the iconic sci-fi flick's plot ever since it first came out. Here are some fan theories from the franchise that I really hope are true. Starting off with a real doozy. Agent Smith was the One all along. The heart of the films is Neo's journey as the One, a figure destined to end the war between humans and machines and save the world. Pretty epic, right? Throughout the trilogy, Neo faces off against his arch nemesis, the nefarious Agent Smith, played by the amazing Hugo Weaving and Jonathan Groff. But hold on to your VR hats, because there's a theory out there that suggests there's more to Smith than just being a run-of-the-mill bad guy. This theory centers around a conversation between Neo and Morpheus. He describes the original One as a man who had the power to change the Matrix as he saw fit, and would bring about freedom for humanity. At first glance, it seems like he's talking about Neo, but as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that these same qualities can also apply to Smith. Like Neo, Smith was born inside the Matrix and can copy and spread himself throughout the system, basically remaking the Matrix as he desires. It's because of this that Neo is able to broker a deal with the machines and bring about a truce, ultimately ending the war. I mean, having evil motivations doesn't necessarily disqualify someone from becoming the chosen one. We've already seen this concept explored in the Star Wars franchise with Anakin Skywalker. So is Agent Smith secretly a savior, or is he just a cleverly disguised villain? We may never know for sure, but of course, this is just the tip of the iceberg. After all, it's also possible that the real world isn't even real. There are two realities in the film, the Matrix simulation and the real world of Zion, which exists outside the simulation. But what if Zion's just another layer of the Matrix, designed to keep the rebels fighting a never-ending war against the machines? This theory has been circulating among fans for years, and it's not hard to see why. The evidence is certainly compelling. For example, in The Matrix Reloaded, Neo demonstrates telekinetic abilities that seem to extend beyond the confines of the simulation. This raises the question, if the real world is supposed to be free of the rules of the Matrix, how is Neo able to manipulate objects with his mind? Similarly, the fact that Agent Smith can possess Bane, a human in the real world, suggests some kind of connection between the two realities. And when Neo is blinded in the following fight, he's still able to see in a way that seems to defy the laws of physics. All of these occurrences suggest that the supposed real world of Zion may not be what it seems. But just like the theory, there's also another layer to this mystery, namely, the fact that the Matrix is a lot smaller than it seems. As per this theory, the machines only simulated one metropolitan area, surrounded by a few suburbs and a small amount of wilderness. With the war, humanity's numbers naturally got reduced, so recreating an entire planet for a few million meatbags would have been a waste of resources. This theory gains more traction with the lack of specific regions outside the main conurbation, as seen in The Matrix Reloaded. Instead, areas beyond the city are just given generic names like the freeway and the mountains. It's like the machines didn't bother to simulate significant landmarks. Additionally, almost all the simulated action takes place within the same generic city, even though the franchise spans realities. But wait, there's a counter-argument. Smith talks about how billions of people were just living their lives. So does this mean the Matrix is a replica of the world as we know it, or is there a deeper meaning behind Smith's words?
You can't take a compliment,
anyway,
can you?
It was cool. I mean, to work with Angelica Houston and Halle Berry, Mark Dacascos.
Speaking of deeper meaning, what if I told you that the bad CGI was all intentional? However, despite all the technology at their disposal, the Matrix trilogy still encountered some limitations when it came to rendering certain scenes. One Reddit user came up with an intriguing theory to explain some of these shortcomings. According to them, the reason why some of the special effects look less than convincing is because the Matrix itself struggles to keep up with the action. I mean, I'm sure we've all had to lower the graphics of a game after it started lagging at some point in our lives. In other words, the simulation can't render the fast-paced movements and complex environments in real time. For example, in the scene where Neo fights off a horde of Agent Smith clones, the Matrix cannot keep up with the sheer number of combatants. This results in a decrease in the quality of the visuals. The same goes for the famous freeway car chase, which ends in a less than realistic collision between two lorries. While this might seem like a convenient explanation for the filmmaker's technical limitation, it does add an interesting layer to the story of the Matrix.
Just kind of gushing over you on the internet. You didn't know that yet.
No, well,
A lot of positivity.
After all, if the Matrix itself is struggling to keep up with the action, it suggests that even the most powerful computers have their limits. It also raises questions about the true nature of the simulation and whether it is really as all-powerful as it appears to be. Speaking of mixed appearances, another theory suggests that Morpheus may not be what he sees. That's right, the wise guide himself is leading Neo and his fellow rebels on their quest for freedom. According to Reddit user KGB Kid, Morpheus might actually be a program created to manipulate Neo and ensure that he fulfills his destiny as the anomaly. If true, this would make him one of the biggest double agents in sci-fi history. The theory suggests that Morpheus's role is to guide Neo toward the Architect and force him to make the choice that will continue the cycle of oppression. But how can we be sure? Well, there are some pretty compelling pieces of evidence. For one thing, Morpheus's ship is called the Nebuchadnezzar, which coincidentally also happens to be the name of an ancient Babylonian king who sought to destroy Zion. Coincidence? I think not. But that's not all. His name is also taken from the Greek god of dreams, implying that he's a master manipulator who can influence decisions without anyone even realizing. It's a mind-bending idea that adds a whole new layer of complexity to one of the most iconic characters in sci-fi history.
Is this a formal event or a social affair?
Social.
And is this for day or evening?
I need one for day and one for night.
Of course, you could argue that Morpheus is just a freedom fighter who truly believes in the cause of humanity, but where's the fun in that? Whether you buy into the theory or not, it's hard to deny that it adds an extra layer of intrigue to an already mind-bending franchise. Lastly, but definitely not least, John Wick is a part of the Matrix. It just gets better and better, doesn't it? According to the Red Bulletin's Tom Guise, John Wick 2 is actually a Matrix sequel. Guise claims that the surreal and video game-like qualities of the series are evidence of this theory, particularly in the action sequences.
The latest in ballistic chic, appropriate for all formal occasions, weddings, funerals, high-table duels. After all, a man has to look his best when it's time to get married. Or buried.
The way passers-by seem to ignore the violence around them, and Winston's ability to freeze people also suggests that something's not quite right. But that's not all. Both Morpheus and the Bowery King, who act as mentors to Reeves' characters, are played by Lawrence Fishburne. Even more intriguing is the fact that the John Wick director, Chad Stahelski, was Reeves' stunt double in the Matrix films. The idea that John Wick is a Matrix sequel raises some questions, though. Is Wick's reality just another level of the Matrix? Are the assassins actually agents tasked with maintaining control? Or is Wick simply a rogue program, a rebel fighting against the system? Now that would be something, wouldn't it? But hey, that's all the time we had for The Matrix's sci-fi shenanigans.